I am Fernando Correa, a scientific journalist, and I am going to have the pleasure and honor of sharing a historic broadcast in which for the first time the scientific analysis with high-quality instruments will be broadcast live to the entire planet. Technology of one of the dried specimens of the so-called Nazca Mummies. These specimens really surpass everything we have seen before, and therefore a great susceptibility has been created to think logically that they are not real. However, the research that has been carried out since April 2017 allows us to understand that we are facing something that we have not seen before on our planet. We do not know what it is. We do not know its exact origin. What we do know is that these specimens that measure between 60 and 58 centimeters in height are thousands of years old. They are humanoid because they walk bipedally on 2 feet. They have a trunk, limbs. Humanoids. OIDS in Greek means, like hominids. They are not a hominid. They are not any type of monkey, chimpanzee, ape. It is something truly different. We also know that they are reptiles because they lay eggs, their gestation and the analyses of scientific instruments. Now this is not said by some person. This is said by scientific instruments that lay eggs. Therefore they would come to enter the category of humanoid reptiles.
Yes.
We could add that they are intelligent humanoid reptiles, since they have metal implants inside their bodies. It is also a true mystery what those implants are, what they were used for, what they were used for. However, what is an objective and direct fact is that the metals are there in some of these specimens, like those already at the San Luis Gonzaga University in Ica. They're in Peru, where the Luisa mummy is found, the mummy Josefina and mummy Victoria, among others. Today we are going to analyze the specimen called the clear mummy. I want to specify and establish that it is not a natural mummy in terms of having been eviscerated, that its organs were removed. No, it is desiccated. It is desiccated. You understand it very well.
I didn't say stuffed, I said desiccated.
It is a natural drying based on Anomea earth powders, fossilized microscopic algae.
Y para todos estos detalles, que en eso consiste una investigación.
And for all these details, which are what an in-depth investigation consists of, a whole team of experts is with me, each in their field, starting with Dr. Jose de Jesus Sales Benitez.
How are you, Doctor? Very good afternoon, Fernando. Very grateful for this invitation and for having this historic opportunity to be able to broadcast live the image analyses that are going to be performed on this body.
A notary public is also with us to attest to the facts so that it is also clear in all terms of legality that what you are going to witness here and now is completely real. It is completely legitimate. I'm going to allow myself to ask the lawyer to tell us his name and position.
Thank you, graduate, welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, I am Carlos Meza. I am the owner of Notary Office 35 of the state of Mexico. Nice to meet you.
Let's attest to the facts. Is that correct? Attest to the facts of what is taking place here.
Indeed, I was required to attest to the facts of what is going to happen at this moment.
Extraordinary, graduate, very welcome again. Guillermo is also with me, who is a specialist at this one of the most important clinics in Mexico that has some of the most modern laboratories with high-tech equipment.
Yeah.
Your name and position, please.
How are you? Good afternoon, Guillermo. I am a radiology technician from the clinic here. To begin these studies we have this equipment. It is a 64-slice Toshiba Aquilion. It is of high image fidelity, and with this we are going to begin the corresponding studies.
Extraordinary. What is it for those of us who are not very familiar with these topics? What exactly does this team do?
Well, look, there are several image structures. They are multiplanar images, and at the time of their reconstruction they allow us to make a 3D reconstruction and allow us to analyze the interior of any object.
In this case, Guillermo, I want to share with you based on what I have already learned, that it is a body, a specimen.
¿Sí?
Well, then we can start this transmission. Once again I welcome you who have just joined.
verdaderamente emocionados, entusiasmados en el hecho de
Truly excited. Excited about the fact that we are going to be here with this situation, and well, we are also going to introduce other specialists who are with us. Yes. Let's see. Let me go with them. Please come in. I want to introduce them. They are going to be on the other side of this area where we have to use this type of equipment, armored suits, lead suits, etc. And that they are the doctors, specialists who themselves introduce themselves.
Your name and position, please.
I am Dr. Rubian Garcia Linaje. I am an orthopedic surgeon. I specialize in joint surgery, and my intention today is to evaluate the bone parts, the extremities, the entire joint issue to be able to see what it is about.
With equipment like this, it is possible to determine if it is a body in a supposition, in a speculation, to clarify the public, the friends, the scientists, the academics who see this. Can you determine if it is assembled with different parts, something like that?
This type of equipment, the tomography, as we already mentioned, a reconstruction of all the sosis parts can be done. Specifically, it is to see the bone issue, determine, ensure. I don't know. Right now we will see. But without a doubt we can determine if that it is a bone, and of course it will be able to be seen here.
Thank you very much. Welcome again.
Your name and position, please.
I am Dr. Armando Gonzalez Ballesteros. My specialty is radiology. Well, I am the expert in interpreting tomography studies like the equipment we have here in front of us. What this study will give us is what the fabric consists of, both outside and inside, seeing the joint congruences, really verifying whether it is good, if it was assembled or not assembled, if it is something practically in its nature. It is what that we can contribute, so let's see what we find.
That seems very good to me. Well, as you surely know, Mr. Jamie Maussan is traveling to the United States, which is why he has asked me to assist him, to help him with that special transmission, and I am excited to be able to see again with high-tech scientific instruments before we are. So I would like to ask you if we have already gone directly to the body. Let's go directly to the body, please, so that you realize what it is about.
Thank you very much, doctors, thank you.
I pay close attention to you, please. There we have it. This specimen is called Clara. It was found in the same diatom dust caves. I repeat that the diatom is a fossilized algae from approximately 13 to 17 million years ago, when the Nazca and Palpa Desert of Peru was the bottom of the ocean. This diatomy powder, they will not be able to describe it in detail. We have reports, investigations. It acts as a kind of protection against fungi, against bacteria, against insects, and this has generated that diatomite, as it is also called diatomy powder, has been in charge of perfectly preserving those specimens that are 1,000 years old. Let's see. Go ahead then. Are you going to start the analysis? The notary public is with us, giving testimony in faith of everything that is being carried out. On the other side of the screens are the radiology specialists, the doctors, and this is the ideal time to remind you that these bodies cannot be investigated remotely. These specimens cannot be explained by putting together models or putting something together. On the other hand, these bodies that are organic and ancient and completely different from everything we have seen deserve and must be studied, investigated in an objective way. That is, directly some comment, Dr. Jose, by Jesus Sales Benitez.
Indeed, the last thing you just said is the most important thing in scientific research. When someone wants to give an opinion about something, from the point of view of scientific methodology, they have to know it firsthand. And it is the invitation that we have made since 2017, where the scientific community that wishes to come to know these bodies directly and not to give their opinion from a distance behind a desk or thousands of kilometers away.
If from the first moment we realized that we were facing something extraordinary and completely different from everything we had seen, we decided to invite, and this invitation remains open. Personally, I can assure you that time will prove whoever has it right and that the brightest minds on this planet will end up investigating these specimens.
Yes.
So I reiterate in the most cordial, fraternal and attentive way an invitation to all types of academics, scientists and experts from the various fields that are required to better understand this, to come forward.
No.
It's not that they try to put together one like it, etc. I have said it a few times and I maintain it. If they put together the same one and with instruments, with carbon-14 dating, with DNA analysis it looks the same, we would have to recognize that it is something else. However, since April 2017 when we traveled to Peru, many said that they were armed, but no one has been able to prove it that way. So as they say in Mexico, from word to deed, there is a long way to go. Let me tell you so that the notary also knows that for 7 months we thought they were dolls. We saw them on the internet, we saw them from a distance. I never dared to say they are fake. What I did do was tell Jamie Maussan that we had to travel to Peru to investigate firsthand, in our hands, directly at the specimens.
Yes.
And that we could very possibly be deceived because we are journalists and that is why we summoned biologists, experts in forensic sciences like Dr. Jose de Jesus Salcedonites. We met with the team of the INCARI Institute in Peru, with Tierra Y. Yamin, with Jose Lito Casafranca, with Edward Valenzuela, and we decided to travel to Peru because they took the specimens to be X-rayed. When they showed us that they walked, they breathed, so we decided to travel. There we met with the Russian biophysicist, Stanton Karatkov, and more experts joined, more specialists joined. The image is going to proceed, so it is possible that the light will change. We are very attentive to what is going to happen. At this time, this tomography of many planes, of various planes or sections, will be performed that allow us to see the interior in detail in very high resolution and in a three-dimensional way what we are looking at. This specimen, I repeat, is clear. It has been called feminine because also inside, in the belly, egg-like structures are observed. I would like to ask Dr. Sales to remember that day in April 2017, when for the first time we traveled to a place to take X-rays on the mum Josephina.
No.
We thought there was an embryo inside. Jose, what happened there?
The first time we were there we saw the bulge in the abdominal cavity and well, we didn't know what it had there. We suspected that it might have some gestation period, but we also thought that it could be part of its normal anatomy. For us, it was precisely one of the factors that we needed to clarify and determine when taking the X-rays and CT scans. And indeed at the moment in which we took the X-ray and the image could be observed, and in this image 3 eggs were observed, it was a moment of total astonishment, spectacular, because we were seeing a possible organic structure in a stage of gestation, which makes it easier to determine that it is a living organism. Right now we are going to start the study and we hope to see the same situation in the abdomen of this body called Clara.
Well, there you have it. The images are there, the images are being aired, and I ask that the master of the position where I am was not able to see this and well, it is a truly extraordinary moment today, September 18, 2023 in which I can have the privilege, because this is a privilege, it is an honor and a pleasure too, to be in front of again one of these specimens that, I repeat, were found by a mineral seeker there in Peru, in a cave of diatom algae where at least 9 specimens like this have emerged. So the expectation is, it's big, it's interesting, yeah? What is happening right now, Dr. Jose de Jesus Salza with this instrument?
Tell us.
Right now the body is passing inside the tomograph with the intention of calibrating the equipment. It has just turned on, it begins to rotate. It is a giant magnet that turns and this will make the cuts little by little as the body advances. Cuts will be made from cephalic to breech, that is, from head to breech. The feet, making cuts that allow observation of millimeter structures.
Yes.
Well, these millimeter structures are the ones that will attest to the facts.
Hey.
The notary public number.
Number 35, Carlos Mesa, yours truly.
Yes, Mr. Carlos Mesa, I know, but now so that you can be the one to give your voice.
Obviously, I am also very excited. My intervention at this moment is going to be based on attesting that the body that is entering this device is actually the one that is going to be printed in the analyses or in the results that result from that analysis, because naturally, in my capacity as a notary, I do not have expertise in medical issues. Simply verifying that the element that is being introduced into the device is the study that reflects whether it is the same thing.
More than clear, extraordinary lawyer, because there you heard how this fact is treated. I remember that there were the expert and surgeon, expert in radiology Edson Salazar Vivanco, who went there with friends from the Encaria Institute, who sent greetings. Well, we all went together with the documentary filmmakers from the Gaia television station who helped finance the trip, our friend Yurka, and well, they wanted to document what we were facing, and Joyce Mantilla, our journalist friend from Peru, told us, yes, he told us first, you have to remember, he told us, I don't know you, I am a journalist of politics, entertainment and criticism, but I asked to be in this investigation because the images that are being published on the internet of these are causing excitement in my country. Beings or these bodies or these objects, he said, and he also told us, I'm Mantilla, if you come to my country to deceive, try to do a publicity stunt only for television, I'm going to report you, remember, that's right, so he told us, I'm Mantilla. And indeed he was one of the most surprised because he realized that what we were talking about was something outside the parameters, totally real, and as you could see right now when I took the body out of the box, it is completely rigid. And this is due to the desiccation process that occurs, and therefore the entire desiccated organic structure becomes completely rigid.
This allows for slightly easier handling. However, it has to be done with much more care because it is very fragile and at any time it could fracture or separate one of the pieces. This specimen, as soon as we finish doing the study, I will show it to you a little more on camera. It has some missing toes, and this is precisely due to the manipulation it had in previous moments before arriving here in Mexico, and it lost those little pieces of toes. Precisely because it is a very fragile piece, being completely rigid. It is very fragile and can break and fragment at any time.
Well, there you have this detail. Let me also tell you that you have let your friends know that at that time the journalist Joyce Mantilla won one of these armored suits for us. He put it on and says, I'm going to mess with the person who took the badge, and he's not going to change my badge. I'm going to be there next to him and make sure that the plate that they took from that specimen, the Josephina mummy, is the one that is going to be revealed. It doesn't change my plate. He got involved. He did not let go at any time, and he, too, at his level as a journalist, was able to testify that the image that had been obtained of Josephina with the 3 eggs was real. It was legitimate. So what an interesting moment, graduate, you want to add. What do you think?
Indeed, I believe that it is revealing. Naturally, I insist that my function here is to attest that the study that will result from applying the technology of this device agrees with what is being done to this body that has just been introduced, so that it does not, you will think that the information or analysis provided by the device has been replaced.
There you have it again. More than clear. The fact, logically, the specific function is to attest to the facts that this body is the one that is being analyzed and to obtain the images that are live. The images Alberto Garcia are eldest to see. Let's go to this side to start seeing the images, also given that they are being transmitted to the entire planet. Let's see. Let's see the images here with permission. Can it be opened?
Yeah?
You are seeing the images there. We are just analyzing the images. Let's see, is this good, like this, the light, or do we change it to see? I ask my team, is it correct? Since the specialists are already here, I would ask the notary to also come closer, Mr. Carlos Mesa, so that he can also be the one who can give observation to these more than extraordinary images, is what I can tell you. For now it has been called the clear non-human body. There we can see how the specialists are viewing the different plans that are being obtained.
No.
They are already beginning to do their preliminary analysis. It is the first time that they have seen this type of images of this body called Clara, and I reiterate that the intention of this transmission is not to determine what we are facing. That for now is not feasible. It is impossible for us to know what is this being. However, what is known, as I reiterate, is that they are ancient, more than 1,000 years old. They are organic beings that walked, that breathed, that ate, that inhabited our planet there in the desert of Palpa and Nazca in Peru, and that require all the attention and all the necessary research so that specialists in zoology, in forensic sciences, in biology, in taxonomy, in the countless branches of science, help us understand what it is about. Let's see if we can make space here so that Mr. Carlos Mesa, who is giving testimony and faith, can see that the images are there.
Here I see perfectly. It is a screen that is transmitting images that are connected to the device into which this being was introduced. Obviously I, in my capacity as a notary, cannot say anything in the medical aspect, but for that here it is full of experts.
Well, neither do I, mister. I am a scientific journalist and I think the team is what is important. I base myself on what scientific instruments and specialists in each licensed field say, so you do well to specify that far from saying medical terms, faith in facts is the most important thing.
Yes, without a doubt. What we are seeing naturally is the results that a scientific artifact with those characteristics returns with respect to the body that was introduced to it. And that would only be my comment on the matter.
Here you are, so very welcome. Let's go over here with the experts, with the specialists, so that it is understood. Please reiterate your name so we know who is talking to us in your first comments.
I am Dr. Rubian Garcia Emanage, orthopedist. Let's see. We continue analyzing. There are several things we want to see. From the outset, I can say that what we are seeing are bones. There are many images that we are seeing that do have the shape of a bone. Here we can see the entire vertebral part. They look like vertebrae that have a canal in the center. What we imagine as the spinal canal. There are some things that draw attention like the ribs. For example, there are some ribs that are there, like that image we have there. The ribs are inside the spinal canal. That draws a lot of attention. What could I do? Once again, we are not saying what it is or what it is about, simply seeing what we are seeing. I am very struck by the way the ribs are. The circular shape. I don't see a sternum. I don't see that it has any part for cartilage. I don't know if it was managed with oxygen, if it breathed, but there the rib cage did not have much possibility of expansion due to the shape of the ribs. Well, so far this is what we have been able to see.
More than interesting and understandable. It is just a few minutes away from when those images came. Let's listen to the radiologist's first comments. Let him reiterate his name. Who is speaking?
I'm Dr. Gonzalez. Look, he's a skeleton, right? It is an apparently unarmed skeleton. That is, the cranial-cervical union looks consistent with a biological being. Well, from here, we may not know what it is, but there are, as the doctor said, there are ribs that are assembled, well, in a certain logical way to a skeleton, and there are others that are in the spinal canal. I think this had a trauma or something. It is a very logical area. It has the upper extremity joint. It also looks real. It has glenoids. It has a joint there, translating it to a human glenohumeral body. No? Maybe the tourist box is very small. We can't see windows, because there is no remnant that can tell us that there is a lung or something, right?
But Gonzalez, can you repeat that term for us? Did you say glenoids? Or how do I say it?
What does it mean?
The glenoid is like the dome where the upper extremity is assembled and gives the margins of movement to an upper extremity. That is the glenohumeral joint of the upper extremity, and just like in the hip down here, here it is not seen. Here there is no union of the lower extremity to the acetabulum. I tell you, it has been around for a long time, but it is what does not have much attendance there, but they are bones. Bones very similar to an animal skeleton and in certain ways to humans in the part of the extremity superior.
Similar to those of humans. Yes, doctor.
Yes, in the part that Armando says, that is seen in many evidences with humans.
podemos ver
We can see the humeral part and the glenoid part.
esto si lo vemos en un
If we see this in a human, it is very similar, even in the X-rays that we saw that were previously revealed in that X-ray. We even saw a little wear and tear, a little osteoarthritis, which is what we also see in patients sometimes of the advanced that we find an already worn shoulder here. The characteristics of the shoulder are very similar, unlike that of the hip. That the hip we do not find a part that fits very well like the cox of emerald joint that we normally see.
es un poquito.
It's a little different. It's one of the things that draws attention. If it was a being that walked upright, that part of the spine also draws attention. If you notice, the spine is completely straight. Normally the spine in people who walk upright has certain angulations, scoliosis, lordosis, kyphosis, etc. And here it is completely straight.
Well, in these preliminary analyses you certainly deserve to be taken as experts for as long as necessary, but I would ask you if you have so far managed to detect that this body has been armed or manipulated.
The part of the shoulders, the part listed with the armed issue, the skull. There are several things to do with the skull. It would not seem like it was armed. It would not seem like it was made of flame as they have commented, because it would look different. You would see traces, would you see? No, traces of having made some cuts, some modifications, because that would have to have been some biological regenerative issue, and if that was done post-mortem, then there wouldn't be, I mean we would see it here, that part if not.
No,
It would not have been manipulated. It would be obvious, Doctor.
Yes, here I am talking about the skull, and yes, that would be noticeable. It would also be noticeable in the clenumeral part. Right now where I have not seen well is in the part of the hip, which would be equivalent to the hip.
Well, you deserve to take your time, as much as necessary, of course.
esto no es
This research is not about speed, it is about endurance. That is, to resist not closing your mind and saying, that is a doll, based on what, or why, or for what. I would like to listen to the radiology specialist again, Dr. Armando Gonzalez, and also ask him directly, so far have you noticed that there is any evidence that this body was manipulated or armed?
Manipulated, I couldn't tell you, not armed. That is, we don't see this skeleton being joined together artificially or with nails or something, right? I tell you, there are asymmetries. I tell you, look, this humerus does not have the same anatomy as the left humerus, so the densities are not the same throughout the skeleton. I tell you, then what draws attention is the lower extremity. That is, for example, here in the upper extremity we see more or less like a humeral head to glenoid, and here we should see an acetabulum, and it looks like the word is like osteoarthritis. We don't see
Bone disease.
exactly, as we don't see a clear joint in the hip, something that can give it movement, and that density of those two draws attention. Well, if we transfer it to those two femurs of this skeleton, but I tell you that we see nails, glue or something, well no, the truth is that you can't see it.
Another very specific question. Doctor, do the extremities and joints have an anatomical correspondence? What can you tell us about it?
As we mentioned in the part of the thoracic limbs, yes, but here this draws my attention a lot. Let's go to the cox of emerald joint. Here we see the femur, and here we should see, and remember that I'm thinking of humans. Here we should see a spherical structure where what I think is the femoral head could fit. This is the only thing that catches my attention, this part here and this part here. That and well, and in terms of the carpus, in the hand and the tarsus in the foot, we do not see the typical characteristics of the bones that we normally know. So, this being seems to me like it couldn't have had much movement. We see only one bone in the forearm. Therefore I don't think it could be the pronosupination movement, and we also see towards the hand there are practically no bones, and that would make mobility very difficult.
Well, your considerations are interesting. I would like to ask Dr. Jose Sales to also give us his impressions based on these first moments. I mean, it's been a few minutes that the experts, the specialists have seen the images. It is very difficult to determine what we are dealing with, but the intention of the transmission is to rule, to establish whether it was armed or not. It is a being of a single piece. What do you think, Dr. Sales?
I think we have reached the core of all this. Fernando, you have actually just seen the newly taken images directly and with the interpretation of an imaging specialist and an orthopedic specialist, where they are confirming that this body has no signs of having been assembled or joined together. In pieces, that is, it does not have metals that join it, glue that joins it, or any other structure that could have joined bone pieces to assemble the body. That is the first point, which we are all agreeing that it has not been armed. Second, we are agreeing that the structure of the skeleton, indeed, has a series of alterations in its anatomy, which would not be compatible with life as we currently know it or similar to the human being, but we are facing a species that we have not yet seen, described, which we have not discovered and which we continue to study and analyze. Therefore, this type of joints and bone unions have a series of differences between us that make them unique. And finally, we are confirming the presence of the union of the skull and the neck naturally, which implies that, as the orthopedic doctor explained, it could not have been the union of a skull of another species attached to this body because you would see the residues of the manipulation of that skull, the carvings, the fractures, the cuts, the unions, and here they are not observed. On the contrary, a perfect union between the skull and the neck is seen. And finally, we have reached the abdomen where we can see these pieces that look like or could be eggs. Once again, we are faced with a body that if it had been modified post-mortem, that is, after death, it would have a series of alterations that would be visible in these studies. Not having found any of these post-mortem characteristics, we are then determining that it is an organism that was alive at the time, was intact, was biological, and was in a moment of gestation. The truth is that we are reaching a very good interpretation by the radiology specialist and the orthopedic specialist who confirm the data and information of the results that have been previously presented since 2017.
Well, more than extraordinary. There you have it. I would like to ask Guillermo. Guillermo is here. If he can show us that part of the chest that shines, which is one of the metal implants, so we can ask the specialists again. Let's see, first of all, that to the radiologist Armando Gonzalez, that which shines there, if you want to point it out to what is seen on camera, that which shines there, this. Is that normal? Because we infer that it is metal based on analyses of other specimens.
Bueno,
Well, here this equipment allows us to measure something called Huntsfield units. This gives us the density of any image that the equipment is capturing. In this case, the Huntsfield units are above 4,000. That means that it clarifies that it is a metal. Interestingly, he is also measuring us in the lower extremities units of 2,500 units, so it appears that he has metal in the lower extremities as well. However, that plate does not look like it is embedded with nails. It looks adhered, that is, not implanted. Well, you can see that it does not belong to the bone of the rib cage, but you can't see that it is, well yes, fixed in some way with another metal towards the structure, that no longer looks attached. That's what I can tell you. Say. And what doesn't click for us is that, right? It's these ribs that go through the... That's what we call them, foramina, which is where the nerve roots pass, right? From the marrow. Was this trauma or... This can't be, right? I mean...
There, complementing what the doctor is saying, it is indeed very likely that those ribs have pierced or have been introduced into the spinal canal precisely because of the time that the body has been in a state of desiccation and the pressure to which it was subjected. We must remember that it was not in a bag, in a capsule or something, but rather it was supporting the weight of all the diatomy powder and that compresses the thorax, and therefore, being an old bone, it is very likely that it caused the rib to have been inserted into the spinal canal as the doctor is saying. It is a very good observation that the doctor is making.
Yes, I would like to go back now. Let's go with the orthopedist, but go back with Armando Gonzalez, an expert in radiology, and Guillermo. If you emphasize the units, let it be heard very clearly. What are these units called so that our friends understand perfectly, and how many units the bone has and how many it has that we can now infer as a metal?
Well, Hounsfield units are the objective units to measure how clear an image is or how unclear an image is. For example, the air has to be at minus. So if we put it here and put the roll here, can I put the air back on?
If you look, here we are doing this, measuring these units in the air. How much should the reading be?
It has to be less, right? It has to be in negative units, and on the contrary, there is no density in the bone and in the bone. For example, here the unit in the air, that it is. Here is the body, and here, for example, the body is above and it gives us units of 1000 minus 1042, right? That means that it is gas, it is air, and for example when we put the measurement on the metal plate it gives us up to 5,982 units. Then, and let's see in some bone, if we go to a bone that it is already 600 units, then it is less hard, it is less dense, so it is what allows us to objectively point out the density of an image that we are studying then of the bones. So I tell you, apparently there are Honfield units that throw us up to 2600 in both lower extremities in the legs. You have to see what is happening there, and in a human being. For example, in a child, in a small being, or perhaps even have information about a person who has very short stature. How many units should we be measuring between?
Approximately.
The units in what part of the body?
For example, in the legs of a child or a short person, what are the typical or common measurements?
Well, I tell you, there is a scale that tells you the density that covers a bone structure, and it ranges between 400–700 units more or less. The bone and the metal are above 3,500. So we can show, obviously no metal should be in a child, not even in the bones, that does not exist.
Do these look like the bones of a child to you?
No, not really. It does not have the structural anatomy of an infant. It's a skeleton, right? Is that all we can say?
Any additional comments please, Doctor?
This part of the plate. Normally when we put plates on bones for fractures we fix them with some type of. With screws, it is normally common. Here it is seen above the bone. It would not appear that the bone was fixed with implants. So, if the question is that is normal, that is not normal. I think that Iron Man could only say that it is normal, from there on out. No. It is not normal. It is not normal to see this. We do not have cases like this. Normally we see them like this, but with the screws in place. And within the assembly there is definitely something that in the upper extremity, I am calmer. The lower extremity is the one where I'd have my doubts regarding the Cox of Emerald Union. That would be my conclusion.
Yes, some specimens also have. Thank you very much, doctors. Let's go over here. They also have metal implants or metals as if they were prostheses in the parts of the extremities. We are going to investigate more about this. The X-ray plate. So again, the notary, our friend Frontera, is not here because it is more than important that some comments so far on what concerns your legal field, please.
Regarding the faith of facts that made me please invite, naturally, without a doubt, the images that have been transmitted from the device, because according to what we have heard from the experts they do belong to a being that had life, and the only thing what I can say that is what concerns me specifically on the subject of faith in facts is that the studies that we are seeing are being carried out on this being. That is, the entire technique that is being used coincides. These devices and the new ones that are going to be used now to determine the nature of this being that we have here to see if it had life or not had life, and those who explain are the experts. I only attest that it is the same entity that is being investigated because there you have it live for the entire planet. Yes, let's see ahead, doctor. Now that I can lift it, I would like to show you the absence of the 3 toes on the foot precisely due to fracture, as well as the absence of this finger on the hand. But above all I am interested in the lawyer, the notary, seeing that he does not have any type of external support structure or external assembly that could supplant or make a single body, a single individual, and that, as has already been proven, in the tomography, it is made up of bone structures that we can even see here the fragility of how it is broken, and it looks as if it were clearly the inside of a bone with the naked eye. Now we are going to see. It is made of a single piece of a single piece. It is a complete skeleton made of a single piece that has some missing parts due to the manipulation it suffered and the time it has had for more than 1,000 years.
Where do I put it?
Well, please welcome, thank you, my name is Kasner Casas, I am the medical director of this hospital. We are really a very professional hospital and we wanted to collaborate with this investigation just so that you could have the confidence that it is being carried out in a safe place and that we are not in any way omitting an opinion that does not favor either party. So, well, we dare to provide this space so that this study has greater seriousness and is a very complete study. I am very grateful and for all that the public, the scientific community, the academics, must also be pleased and grateful with this opportunity that there is one of the most important clinics in our country in Mexico and with high quality instruments. Very modern technology and that removed the stigma or prejudice or taboo of thinking that they are dolls. Believing is only one thing, knowing is what we come to do, doctor.
Yes, I agree. We are also in favor of science and research, so that is why the opportunity was provided.
Thank you very much again at this time. The radiology technician Guillermo is already taking the sum. There is no catch here.
In fact, I am verifying that the device that is going to be the radiological analysis is doing it in all the positions in which they are putting this being, and that of course the analyses actually correspond to the organism that is the subject of this analysis.
Well, more than extraordinary again, you are on the Maussan TV signal live and direct, witnessing what is pure history. For the first time, these types of images are broadcast on the air throughout the planet. There is a news agency also here with us. Now later on with your colleagues and you will be in for a big surprise that they were invited. They will also be asked for their opinion, of course as journalists, on the part of the communicators. Everything that I have expressed to yours truly Fernando Correa, who thanks you for being with us of course. You must be very pleased that you are very well aware, and I reiterate that everything that I have expressed is not from me but based on analysis of scientific instruments and of course on the rigorous, thorough analysis of experts in each of the fields. So Dr. Jose de Jesus Salcedonites, who surely already knows him, among other branches of specialty, is an expert in forensic sciences. I would like to hear what other comments the notary, journalists, specialists, and friends of the public should know and take into account.
Well, Fernando, with all pleasure. Look, now we have finished the tomography and we have moved on to taking a simple X-ray. An anterior or posterior shot has already been taken, that is from the front to the back, and we have already taken a lateral X-ray. Right now they are already analyzing the results. I think we're going to take another image. And well, I am collaborating here in the manipulation of the body to precisely preserve it, because since they are more than 1,000 years old, they are dried and have already been extracted from their conservation environment since they have already started the pulverizing process. So we have to be very careful in its handling, because any sudden movement or poor position could fracture the piece.
Let me tell you that it arrived here in a special container with a defined environment, with a specific temperature, and now we are going to move on to this side. Please have the lawyer accompany us so that you also realize that this is what we are seeing live and in direct, the X-ray images. It is a relatively small place to see. Please come closer, sir. I am going to turn around on this side. It is full of cameras. Let's see. I am going to come closer here because I want to hear what Guillermo says. Go ahead, Guillermo.
There is no airway. Yes, well, we were talking. What can you tell me?
Well, commenting on what we saw in the tomography and what the radiologist doctor commented, in the part from head to neck there is no evidence that it is united. That is, it is a complete body, so to speak, that goes from head to neck and passing towards the complete sternum area from head to neck. I say it is being seen in parts. There is the plate. Help me with the microphone with it, with Dr. Garcia, please. If not here we can perfectly see this. That is here, that is the glenoid, okay. That it is the part where the humeral head is articulated, which is what we were talking about in the tomography. These images look very similar to that of humans.
We see from this side all this that would appear to be significant wear on the shoulder area. Here we see the ribs, which is what I mentioned at the beginning. There seems to be no room for expansion here. We have ribs and a sternum, and between the ribs and the sternum we have cartilage. This allows us to expand the lungs and exchange oxygen. It is something that should be taken into account. If we look at the part below, see, a very important thing is when we study the structure of the femur, we understand that there are deformations, like the deformity here, which should, in theory if this were a human, we should see a greater trochanter, a lesser trochanter, because the muscles deform it, which is called the ID.
Wolf.
In this case we see the femur quite flat, so to speak, and here is what I told you in the tomography, that we should see a space where we could fit the femur with the corresponding part of the pelvis, and that's what I insist. What gives me a lot of attention is the part of the hip, and on the other hand we see here the carpus. See, the hand is normally, if we see one in hand we see several bones, here we see. I imagine that nothing more, it is one. It would seem that it is only one, and it has 3 fingers, 3 phalanges. Here the mobility had to have been minimal, so well, that is another thing, but this is what I can say about the X-ray in the same part as that of the femur. Yes, the doctor, this radiologist doctor, would like to come. What I mentioned here to the doctor is that in the part of the femur that we saw, that we were talking about the Huntsville units, as such he does not let me, or it is not so evident that there is a metal, in case it happens here in the sterno.
A metal can be seen, if you want. In a stage we see an example of a metal, as seen in an X-ray, but as such nothing is seen here in this. Change the perspective of the Huntsville units on the board a little.
A question for the orthopedic expert. A suspicious question. Let's see the metal that piece has on the chest, from what we infer based on the fact that it has been seen to be metallic in other specimens. Is that metal in itself? Could it only hold or assemble the body?
No, the whole body certainly not. No. They would have, let's see, for us to make a union we have to go in parts. If I want to join the shoulder I have to have a structure in the shoulder, in the hip, in the elbow, etc. This metal alone will not be able to support or unite the body, as you mentioned. There could be some issue in that specific area, but we see on the lateral side in the lateral X-ray we find it superficial. It could have to do with this part of what I think is a rib, but no, it could not join the body without a doubt, no.
Well, I wanted to be more than specific in that term, and I would like to move on to the abdominal part, please, doctor, so that you can give us an initial opinion and a comment on those ovoid structures. What do you think of them?
Well, that question is already a little complex for me. It is beyond my area of expertise. But well, it has been said that they are eggs, but we cannot see them. Maybe we will talk about the possibility of doing an ultrasound to determine a little more, but I think that I'm not the one to give an opinion about eggs.
You have been more than honest and specific. However, it is very valid to ask you, do they seem to you to be something like, to say something strange, stones, glass, or something like that?
Let's see, not glass, they could be stones. I can't say that they are definitely not stones. Maybe through the tomography we could give a little more information about that, but I couldn't rule it out.
I ask you these questions because there are those who have pointed out that stones, quartz, and metals were put in the Josephina mummy, but at the same time subsequent analyses concluded that they were actually eggs. I want to remember, and here I am going to talk to Dr. Jose Sales, that as soon as we saw the mummy Josephina and that she had eggs in her belly, we all ran to see the cloaca, that is, the part where they make their excretions, and also where.
Tell us more about that. You already saw the sewer here, doctor.
In that specific case, it was the biologist Jose de la Cruz who mentioned the existence of a cloaca, precisely for the oviposition process. We looked for the cloaca and did not find it, but because it was covered with diatom dust. After the area was cleaned, biologist Jose de la Cruz found the cloaca transversely. It is a transverse opening.
That is, it is not, let's say like in human beings, it is from leg to leg, we must understand.
From leg to leg, it is correct, in a transverse way, which coincides, for example, with the cloaca that lizards have, for example. And those are comments made and specified by the biologist Jose de la Cruz.
Yes, how important. Greetings also to the biologist Jose de la Cruz Rios, who is dedicated to the health sector. He is a professional in his area who has removed the stigma, the taboo, the social programming of not investigating something different. We are facing something completely different from anything we had seen before. For the first time in history, these images are being scientifically analyzed and on this occasion live and direct.
Right now what I would be interested in is for us to go see, because they have just taken an X-ray to see exactly tridactyl hands and feet, and that is what they are observing.
Of course, yes. This transmission continues. We are pleased that you continue to be very attentive to us, and there is no way that the cameras will not come across to me. It is part of this. But go ahead, Doctor.
Here we are looking at the pelvic limbs, leaving the scratching post a bit. Not much of that anymore. We are talking right now about the femur, the tibia, the joint that in humans is the knee. Here, this is what I see. It doesn't seem to me that it was a being that had mobility in this area. But well, maybe there are other structures that have been lost, I don't know. What really catches my attention is this. You see, here we are talking about the femur on both sides and the tibia on both sides.
See the difference?
What we see here white is called the cortical bone. Look at the cortices of these three bones and look at the cortices of this bone. That also draws my attention to how thin the cortex is on this side, and well, this is incompatible with a knee. This part here, that is, I'm talking about the joint. Per se, in terms of mobility of a human knee. Of course I am thinking of a human knee that is the reference. It is exactly what its specialty is, and if we go here talking about ankles here, the mobility is null or would be null in the case of this B. But I do highlight this part of the cortices. How thin this region is and the difference between these other three bones.
Would it seem to you, or would it please you, so to speak, does it come to mind that further, additional and more in-depth analysis be carried out even to get inside these bones? Well, without a doubt to be able to be there among that bone in the spinal canal would be very interesting to me. It could give me much more information.
I think this is a start. I think they are going to have to do a lot more studies. It seems to me. I can tell you this is a bone, I'd have no doubt. Something beyond that. If we would have to have enough studies or cover more studies to have another type of knowledge, because here it is a little difficult to know with the tomography and the X-ray.
Well, this is the first time you faced something like this, right?
Are you surprised?
Well, without a doubt, surprised since they invited me, right? This, of course, without a doubt does. I had never been in this situation and it is very interesting.
Well, you heard it.
It certainly deserves additional analysis.
Alice?
Of course, it deserves all the attention of those who have the audacity, the cunning, the audacity or whatever you want to call it, to put aside scientific programming, social programming, what they call epigenetic programming. That is, traditionally, it is customary to discard these types of findings without investigating. So I reiterate an attentive invitation for academics from the innumerable branches that are required to come to us with this team. You are realizing the professionals in their specialties who accompany us and the clinical laboratory instruments, advanced technology in which we are supporting.
No.
We are going to move on to another analysis. They are telling me that's how it is. We are going to move on to fluoroscopy, and until then I am going to tell you that it is up to the experts to tell us what this so-called fluoroscopy is used for. I can only tell you for now that when there are live surgical interventions it is to be watching set operations. So let's go this way now. We are not going to cut the transmission in any way. We are going to continue.
Yeah.
Here we have the container in which this specimen has been handled with great care. That is, it has been transported. That is, with great care it has been transported. It has been preserved. It even has diatomy powder there that helps with its preservation. So let's go to the account and should continue to pay attention, hopefully, and I hope that the academics, the experts, the National Polytechnic Institute, the National Autonomous University of Mexico, of course the large private and public universities, the Metropolitan University, all of them, of course, take action. in the matter and that they can collaborate in their specialty. What it is about here is finding the truth, whatever it may be. When we traveled to Peru in April 2017, we said if they are dolls, well, they were dolls and that's it. However, we realized that this was not the case. Thierry Yamin, the president of the Incaria Institute in Cusco, sent a letter. Here we have it. He sent a letter to the Ministry of Culture of Peru so that professionals in anthropology, in archaeology, in the various branches of science came to investigate and was ignored. I also remember on another trip we took that with Jamie Maussan, we went to the Ministry of Culture in person. He was there waiting to be attended to. They never paid attention to us that this does not also happen in Mexico. They should pay attention to those who have to pay attention, the great scientists, those who intend to participate with the good intention of finding the truth. Well, they are welcome, but I insist, it has to be done with the bodies, not from a distance or by assembling something, but by manufacturing something, a model, etc. that aims to relate to this situation that as we see as something very different. Let's move on to this side.
Thank you very much to all the friends who join us.
And now we go to the X-ray fluoroscopy.
And who is the one who is going to explain to me and to the entire public what it is about seeing?
Guillermo, please, what is this instrument? What specifications can you share with us and what fluoroscopy is, what it is used for?
Well, look, fluoroscopy is used in different studies, especially in the operating room in the eastern area. What happens here is the same, from head to toe, then that is what we are going to see in real time.
In real time?
In real time, without having to wait for anything to give us the image. Yes, of course, if we go this way, the notary public is very attentive here to everything that is happening and it is effectively the same device as the same entity. The one I saw coming out of that box is the one who has been doing all the studies.
More than extraordinary. Thank you, Mr. Well, now let's go this way. The space as well a clinical analysis laboratory. Jose Salce is going to explain more details to us.
I'm going to try to demonstrate what Guillermo just explained, which is in real time. I don't know if any camera can directly take the image that is being seen on the screen, which is here on the screen.
One camera on the screen and another on the object, because it is seen in real time. I am going to pass my hand, and when I pass my hand you are going to see how my bones are there, and therefore, please pay attention to the notary public. This is a detail because more than essential. This is my hand. This is my hand. These are my bones. There you can see in real time that the image is at this moment, and when I remove my hand it is now directly the body that we are going to analyze. Can you also move the body a little to do this in real time?
I'm going to move both very slightly so that you can see that you see my hand as it enters, and that we are moving the body so that you can see that it is completely in real time and that it allows us to obtain details from X-ray images but with the possibility of movement.
Your comment, please, Mr. Notary Public.
I have never had the opportunity to see a device of this nature. It seems formidable to me that technology has this degree of advance, and I am effectively attesting that this device is transmitting live the analysis that is being done to this body that is the subject of this investigation.
Thank you very much again, because you are witnessing a study that had already occurred to us a few years ago. We could not find a laboratory, we could not find the scientists, the experts who had, I would say, the audacity, the cunning or the pure interest of science to participate in the study. Jose Salce.
It is correct. We had already requested this fluoroscopy study on several occasions, but we had not found the medical team or the medical clinic that had the courage and audacity to be able to perform these studies, and therefore for me as far as particular, and I believe that for everyone this moment is crucial because it attests that everything that is happening right now and that everything we are seeing and analyzing right now is completely real, it is completely live, and for that the notary lawyer is making us the favor of attesting to facts.
Well, more than extraordinary on my part. I am still very pleased in the terms of scientific communication journalism to have this opportunity to once again invite the brightest minds on our planet to participate and leave behind just opinions. It is about participating, and they are being given the opportunity to do so directly, as now, as the notary lawyer says, to the object of study, That is, this body, this specimen, this being that lived, walked and was on our living planet. Approximately 1,000 years ago. Now he is going to manipulate it. He is going to put it there on its side. There it is. There it is, the so-called live X-ray fluoroscopy, completely live, as airing through the signal of the Maussan TV channel. Journalist, a good friend Jamie, who has had the courage, as yours truly, to understand the attacks, understand the criticism, understand everything that must be understood when something is shown to which we have never been before. So I can tell you, let's see if the conclusion is this. We can conclude that in this transmission it has been demonstrated live that it is not an armed body. It is not a body made of different animal parts as some assumed, but rather it is of a complete organic being. Your opinion please, Doctor. Thank you very much. It has been a great experience to be able to analyze this being. I am left with many reflections. There are many areas that for me are authentic, others that I think need more study.
As we talked a little while ago, I would love to start analyzing more and more right now. I hope they can do it to reach better conclusions, but well, for me it was an incredible experience.
Dr. Garcia, are you willing to continue with this research despite the criticism that colleagues and strangers may make of you and your professionalism at a certain time? What should I mention is the professionalism of a scientist, a doctor, who dedicates himself to this at stake. Are you willing to continue investigating it?
I think it is not a question of criticism. People can think things. If we stick to science, that's why I give my opinion and say I agree with this, I don't agree with this. There are these parts that do, these parts that don't. They require more studies, they require more information. I believe that if we stick to science there is no reason to criticize it. I find it more than extraordinary.
Dr. Sales, a conclusion before ending this transmission.
Well, look, I think it was a unique opportunity in history that gave us the opportunity to increase interest and the invitation for other scientists and other areas of science to join in the research of these bodies. I think we reached the objective of this transmission, which was, 1, to demonstrate that these non-negative bodies are armed, 2, that these bodies do have a relationship in their structure, in their skeleton, that at some point they had life, but 3, that we are facing a being, a body, a specimen that has so many differences and so many particularities that it is worth continuing to study them to determine what we are dealing with.
We are going to continue with these investigations.
Of course, yes, we are going to continue with this. We invite more people to join. But above all, I want to thank this clinic and the doctors who accompanied us with their professional opinion to attest, along with the lawyer, the notary, attest to that what we are doing and what we are here studying is real, unique, biological and organic.
Well, we are going to conclude this special broadcast again to make it very clear, that in your own voice, tell us again your name and your position, and your final opinion, licensed notary public.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I am Carlos Meza. I am the owner of the 35th Notary Office of the State of Mexico, and indeed, I was there during the dissemination of all the transmission and the analyses, the studies and everything that was made in relation to the entity object of analysis. I attest that they agree with the entity or with this, I don't know what to call it, please help me, with the body that was the object of analysis in each and every one of the facets of this transmission.
Well, there you have it. You are more than pleased to have carried out this special broadcast.